Hello, friends. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you are doing great. Recording live from Poku Law, of course, the best immigration law firm here in the U.S. and in Northern Virginia. Okay, yeah, let's start from Northern Virginia. Okay, guys, so we started talking about the very sad immigration story of Barbara Coleman Blackwell. Today we're doing part 2 of that video. So let's talk about it. I hope you guys are doing great. Drop me comments. Let me know where you're watching from and how you specifically are doing. So today we're going to give a summary of background of the story, and then we'll talk about the legal implications or what type of application Ama Osua likely filed. Okay, guys, drop me your comments. Drop them, please, and let's connect. Okay, so this is what happened over the weekend. A story went viral. Like, everybody was shocked at the wickedness of human beings or whatnot. Of course, the story was told from the perspective of Barbara Blackwell. Is it Blackwell? Yeah, Coleman Blackwell's family. So, might be a little bit skewed. And you know how it is when it's a very sad story and somebody loses out big time, and the person did a favor to the other person, then the person who received the favor who made the other person lose out looks like a very wicked person. So it had the whole world, all of us, sympathizing with Barbara Coleman Blackwell. Okay, so, well, my job here is not to judge who's right or who's wrong. We're just going to discuss the story and look at the immigration law lessons that we can take out of it. Okay, so let's go again over the background of the story. Basically, it was named as the ordeal in the obituary. So Grace Coleman was apparently a minister of the Kufuor government in 2003, around that time. She was a former deputy minister of finance, and she was also an MP in Ghana, so if you just see Asokore in the Ashanti region. She was clearly a very prominent woman, very, very prominent. And according to the story, she had a daughter here in the U.S. Her daughter is called Barbara, and Barbara was, I think, about 33 years old. Okay, and Barbara was an accountant here in Maryland, apparently Tacoma Park in Maryland. Okay, and Barbara was married to another U.S. citizen. He was called Kenneth, and they were both Ghanaians, according to the story. And Barbara gave birth to her second born, so she had a 6-year-old boy and then a baby. And then she was talking to her parents over the phone. Her parents were in Ghana. And that time they had a cousin, her mother's cousin, Grace's cousin, was called Margaret Owusua or Ama Owusua. Okay, Grace's cousin, a 44-year-old woman, she was called Ama Owusua. And she heard the conversation that they were looking for somebody to help Barbara. Something like that. And then Ama Owusua decided that, oh yes, I'll take up the offer. I can go help Barbara with her kids in the US. And so through that, Ama Owusua was given a visa. The type of visa she was given was not stated in the ordeal or in the obituary, but from reading the actual case, as I stated in the first part, United States versus Blackwell, it was obvious to me that the type of visa that Ama Owusua came in was an A3 visa. And the A visa, we discussed it extensively. The A1, A2 visa is usually for government officials who are coming, to perform governmental functions. And so Grace Coleman, who was a very prominent person in Ghana, actually told the U.S. State of Department, that's the U.S. Embassy in Ghana, that, oh, I'm going for a meeting at the Department of State in the U.S. and I need Ama Owusua, who will be my personal assistant, and she'll help me with, whatever I'm going to be doing there. So Ama Owusua came under she needed, so she said, claiming the victim, that Ama Owusua was her staff assistant and needed to accompany her to meetings at the Department of State. Okay. And then apparently when they got, so you are given the A3 visa. The A3 visa is very very has very strict confines. You have to have a contract stipulating the terms of the employment, and the employment has to be linked with the governmental function that the A1 person, the A1 applicant, has been granted. So very limited, and it does not include, of course, domestic jobs and nannying. Okay, nannying, if there's a word like that. So she had an A3 visa. We discussed the terms of the A3 visa in the last video, the part 1 video. So if you're interested, please go back there and then watch that video. So unfortunately, and then also as part of the A3, the confines of the A3 visa, you are not supposed to give your passport up. The passport is supposed to be with the A3, the holder of the A3 visa, very strictly up until they leave the country. But apparently the passport was seized by Barbara, who was Grace's daughter, who was the 33-year-old woman here. She was the madam of the home. She seized the passport of Ama Usua, right? And then, under the pretext that she was not going to let her leave, she was here to work or whatever. So that was seized. And then so Ama Usua was providing domestic services to Barbara. So she was removing her shoes at the end of the day. She'd bring water for her to wash her hands. After meals, she'll clean between her toes. Proper service. I mean, you know how we do it in Ghana, right? Yeah. When you have somebody living with you, I mean, even when you want to drink water, you can even tell them to come pour it in your mouth. They're willing to do all those things. So I wasn't in their home, of course, but I assume that from the United States versus Blackwell story, it mentions the type of things that Ama Usua was made to do for Barbara, which included cleaning in between her toes, doing laundry, cleaning up vomit, bringing bowl to wash her hands. All those things are like very Ghanaian things that you do when people live with you. Out here, you won't have that type of privilege, of course. Unless you are Kim Kardashian, and even that you risk being sued because people really kind of know their rights here. So if you go beyond a certain limits, they'll say you are subjecting them to servitude and forced labor and all of those things. So those things are very, you have to be really careful when you're here in the United States, because they very readily define many things as being within the scope of servitude. And forced labor, they don't take it for granted at all. It's like really important. And interesting enough, I think the law against the trafficking and labor was passed in 2000, and these people were the first families to be prosecuted under that law. It's just such a very devastating story. Very, very, very devastating story. So basically, Miss Coleman Blackwell was convicted of forced labor, harboring an illegal alien for financial gain, hiding the passport. Okay, so now let's move on to the types of visa that they could have, Ama Usua could have applied for. Apparently, I mean, social media users who know everything, oh my gosh, they see it all, they hear it all, they know it all. People claim that Ama Usua was badly advised by a deaconess who's a Presbyterian. And this deaconess who advised her that, look, why are you there suffering? Run away and go and report them so that you can get green card. The deaconess was involved in an accident and her legs were amputated. I don't know if that's true. I mean, it was on the street. And then also the people who got the green cards got their nemesis, according to the tweet that the family member of Barbara Coleman shared. Ama Usua and her husband, who both procured the green cards sort of fraudulently, because apparently they told a lot of lies against Barbara. They've both gone blind and are paralyzed here in the US. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but that is what the Twitter user said. So let's continue with the types of visa that Ama Usua could have applied for. Okay, so guys, I'll be reading comments. Of course, you guys, your comments are always welcome. Let me actually read. Eric Nate says, thanks. You're very welcome. Eric, how are you doing? Asari Isaac Kwabna says, hey, what's up with you? I'm doing good. I'm just, we're here chatting about U.S. immigration law. So, hold on. Okay, so let's talk first about the T visa. Okay, so the T visa is a non-immigrant type of visa, and it provides immigration protection to victims of trafficking, and it allows the victims to remain in the U.S. and assist law enforcement authorities, to investigate or prosecute human trafficking cases. So essentially, T non-immigrant status, when you are granted, they'll extend. It's a visa, and they'll give you about, is it 3 or 4 years? I have to verify that. Well, I think it's normally 4 years, and you're supposed to help law enforcement with, if you claim you are a victim of trafficking, you help them to investigate the crime. The crime, and that's why your time here will be extended. And when your time is extended, you'll be eligible to apply for a green card, normally after 3 years, or I think before the, let me pull up the exact text of the law so that I don't have to keep everything in my head, right? As you guys know, a good lawyer is not one who knows every law in their head. That's impossible. But a good lawyer is one who knows where to find the law and how to apply the law. So that's something to note, by the way. Okay. Oop, what did I do? Sorry for my my fingers. Okay, Mr. Farsis Gavin says, nice one. Oh, thank you so much for joining. Eric Nati says, I will be booking for consultation, hopefully ending of this month. Of course, great. I can't wait to speak with you and, just find out how I can help you and how my team can help you. Okay, so let's talk about we're still talking about the T visa, right? Yes. So of course you file a form known as the I-914, and it should be filed by the victim, the person who's saying that they're the victims, and you can include eligible family members, normally spouse. So the person who's the victim is a principal applicant. Then you can include your husband, and then your unmarried children under 21 years old. Hold on. Yes, spouse and unmarried children. That's if you are over 21 years old. You can include your spouse or your unmarried children. That's how Amo, so I think, may have been able to bring her husband and her children here in the US. Okay, so here are the eligibility criteria. When you say that you want a T visa, you have to be the victim of a severe form of trafficking in persons. Okay. That means that trafficking just means that you have been, kind of brought here against your will, and you have been subjected to work like for free, forced labor, like you've been trafficked. You didn't want to come, you've been coerced, and now you are being subjected to some sort of servitude. So you've been a victim of that type of trafficking. And then 2, you are deemed physically present if you meet one of the criteria below. You are here in the US. You're physically present in the United States, or it's outlying, all those things. But here we are looking at, she was here physically in the United States. And then you are allowed entry into one of the US to participate in investigative or judicial processes associated with an act or a perpetrator of trafficking. So of course, you could also be allowed entry in here just for the purposes of assisting them to solve the trafficking case. And so that's how you have to be physically present in the US at the time you're filing the T visa. Unlike the U visa, where you can file it, you can do a consular processing. That's one of the differences. So the T visa, you have to be physically here. Okay. And then you also have to comply with, the federal, state, or local investigation and prosecution, the people handling the case. You have to comply with them. When they ask you, okay, tell us the story, what happened? You cannot say that you don't want to talk about it, because that's the point of this. You are there, so you're supposed to help them. You're supposed to give them reasonable assistance to solve the crime. That's why you're getting a green card. Okay, so that's what you give in exchange for the green card. And then yeah. However, there are some people that are exempted from cooperating with, the law enforcement in terms of reasonable requests for assistance. You don't comply with it. If you're under 18 years, you've gone through severe form of trafficking. I mean, sometimes these people are traumatized, and so will not be able to talk about it because they're children. And then if you're unable to cooperate due to physical or psychological trauma, and then you would suffer. Okay, yeah. And so those two situations are exceptions, then you don't have to comply. But otherwise, you have to fully comply with the investigation to help them. Okay, so I suspect that, of course, Amobusua was very ready to comply, because there was an article where she was telling her part of the story in court, and I understand from the story, it was in Washington Post, she was sobbing and crying and all of that. So I guess that added to the, the to show that, oh, it's a severe form of trafficking. But when I saw that, it actually made me think, I don't know if she also may have petitioned for a U visa, because with a U visa, I will talk about that shortly. I'll tell you why that may have been the case. But either a T or a U visa, I mean, they're very interrelated, quite different. But yeah, we'll talk about that. Guys, drop your comments and your questions, your thoughts, okay? I'm so happy to be on here, as usual, doing what I love. Okay, so that's the T visa. I think we've spoken about the T visa. Let me see if I can find some more on trafficking. I feel like I did not define trafficking well. So let's see. Yeah, let me look at the Department of Justice criminal trafficking report. Let's just pull that up and see if we can get a little bit more legal juice out of it, because I feel like my description of on trafficking was a little too dry. Oh gosh, they've taken it. Oh, I see. Yeah, page not found. Unfortunately, they took it down. I wonder why. Let me see. Let me just do. Guys, drop me your comments. I hope you guys are following my Facebook page and following all our business trafficking in the U.S. law. Okay. Yeah, so there's human trafficking laws. They don't play with this. Okay, so yeah. So if you're a victim of trafficking, the Trafficking and Violence Prevention Act. So TVPA is an act that combats trafficking in persons, especially into the sex trade, slavery, and involuntary servitude. Guys, yes, this involuntary servitude is so important to them, because remember, it's like slave trade. Like, why should somebody be working against their will? That's their whole point. Like, involuntary servitude is just not acceptable in this modern day and age. So, especially when the person says, I'm against this, I don't want to do it, and you're forcing me to do it, big trouble. That means you are a victim of involuntary servitude. So if you are going through something like that, and you are an illegal immigrant, you are actually entitled to a green card. Okay, people go through some of these things, they don't have papers, and people threaten them with some of these things, like, if you don't work, I'm going to report you to immigration. All those things, you can get a green card through that. But of course, you should be mindful. This tells us that, don't fabricate lies on people, like on innocent people, just for green cards. Okay, please, guys. That's just a step, taking it a step too far, just too far. So forgive me for that. Okay, so I think we've discussed what trafficking is a little bit. Now let's move on to what the U visa is. The U visa has a little more. Okay, so let's talk about this. The U visa is also a non-immigrant type of visa, and with that also, you have to be the victim of a certain type of criminal activities. Okay, so a certain type of criminal activity. So you have to be the victim of a qualifying criminal activity. There's a long list of what types of criminal activities will give you this U visa status. And then secondly, you have to have suffered substantial physical or mental abuse as a result of having been a victim of a criminal activity. So here's one of the distinctions. In T visa, you don't have to show that you suffered substantial physical or mental abuse. So with the T visa, there's no qualifying. Well, of course, the crimes are more defined. There has to be trafficking, labor trafficking, some form of trafficking. Where is this? Hold on, please, guys. Let me just make sure I am giving the right legal language, because yeah. So with the T visa, it's a form of trafficking, severe form of trafficking in persons. But with the U visa, I'm going to tell you guys what types of crimes will qualify. It's really interesting. So that if you suffer abduction, abusive sexual contact, so all these types of crimes, if you are a victim of these types of crimes, you can get a green card. And so it's very possible that Ama also may have also petitioned under the U visa. So abusive sexual contact, if somebody tries to have sex with you against your will, you may be entitled to a U visa if you can show substantial physical and mental, some sort of torture or suffering. Blackmail, if somebody commits blackmail against you, blackmails you. Domestic violence, that's also another thing. Domestic violence, certainly U visa. So if you are there with your husband and he's beating you or whatever, some violence in the home, you can get a U visa. And then extortion, if somebody tells you, look, if you don't bring me $1,000 of your money, I'm going to report you, or whatever. They're trying to extort money out of you. Like, okay, if you don't have sex with me, I will. Okay, extortion usually has to do with money. Actually, it has to do with money, so it has to be monetary. Then there's false imprisonment. If there's FGM, somebody subjects you to FGM, female genital mutilation. That's out here in the US. I mean, come on, try that back home in Ghana and all these other countries which allow it, but not here in the US. FGM, straight criminal activity that will give the victim a green card. Felonious assault, there's incest. Oh my God. Incest, yes, incest. Sleeping with your brother or your mother or whatever, all those things. Then there's involuntary servitude. It makes it on the list here. So this is one of the qualifying crimes of a U visa. So it's possible that Amouswa could have also petitioned for a U type of visa. Okay. Then there's kidnapping, there's manslaughter, there's murder. I don't know how you can be a victim of murder and then qualify for a U visa, but yeah, it's right there in the law. Murder, obstruction of justice, peonage, perjury, prostitution, rape, sexual assault, sexual exploitation, slave trade, stalking, torture, trafficking, again, witness tampering, unlawful criminal restraint, and other related crimes. This is a very broad, long list. So if somebody has done something against you and you don't have a green card and you feel like, look, this may be a qualifying criminal activity, please make sure you see an immigration attorney. Let them make sure you qualify and then see how you can get started on also getting your green card through that. So that's it. You have to be the victim of a qualifying criminal activity. Number two, you have to suffer physical or mental abuse as a result of the crime. So if, let's say, you were, with Amouswa's story, they said she should clean up vomit, and she suffered physical or mental abuse because of, it has to be substantial. Maybe when she was sleeping, she was seeing vomit on her face and it was a mental abuse to her. I don't know. And it was substantial, like it affected the quality of her life. Then she can get a U visa through that. Then the third eligibility criteria for a U visa is that you have to have information about the criminal activity. Okay, normally you should have information. And then the fourth thing is that you should be helpful, or you are likely to be helpful to the law enforcement. Look, Americans, they just want to use you to, solve their crimes. They're so big on security. So if you have information about any crime, they're going to keep you here and give you a green card, or give you documents to be able to stay here so that you can help them solve the crime. Okay, so yeah, and then the last thing is the crime occurred in the United States or it violated U.S. laws. And then the final thing is that you're admissible to the U.S. If you're not admissible, you can apply for a waiver. Admissibility, there are grounds of admissibility. You may be inadmissible to the U.S. because you've misrepresented or been fraudulent to an immigration officer for benefits. You've based on health grounds, you are inadmissible. You have some contagious disease. Something like tuberculosis. You shouldn't have certain types of diseases in order to make you admissible to the U.S. They want to protect their people here. So you could be inadmissible based on misrepresentation, based on fraud, based on health grounds, So you have to be admissible. And then sometimes in fact, to be admissible also, you shouldn't have violated the terms of your, sometimes your visa terms, or you shouldn't have broken immigration laws. Things like that make you inadmissible. So you should be admissible to the United States. So admissibility, of course, is a term of art. So that's it for the U visa, guys. Now let's see. Okay. Oh, Mom Sami. Hello, it's somewhere. Hello, girl. How are you doing? I hope you are doing great. Oh my gosh. Well, so happy to have you on here on the live today. Very, very happy to see you. Take care. I hope we will talk soon. Okay. Mr. Francis Garvin says, I see. Okay, yeah. Okay. Then Mr. Garvin says, through your briefings, I'm beginning to understand some basic facts about U.S. immigration laws. I'm so happy. That's my aim. Okay, so let's see let's talk about how to get a green card through a U visa. So with a U visa, you may be eligible to apply for adjustment of status if you meet certain criteria. So number one, you should have been physically present in the US for at least 3 years while you were in the non-immigrant status. So you have the U visa, 3 years, you can apply for a green card. Then number two, have you should not have unreasonably refused to provide assistance to law enforcement since you received your U visa. As soon as you got your U visa, now you're like, look, I will not cooperate. I'm not interested in helping you guys solve the crime. Then you cannot adjust. Give us information in exchange for a green card so that it will help us solve the crime. Okay, then yeah, well, so that's it. There's a lot more to it, but I won't bore you guys too much with the details. Now let's go back to the tweet where the story unfolded and talk about it a little bit more. Oh my gosh, low battery. So unfortunately, I understand that the Coleman family, they sent 7 witnesses from Ghana to the U.S. court to testify that Amma was a family member and she voluntarily offered to help her niece Barbara for 6 months. Apparently, that didn't work. It didn't work. It simply didn't work. And the reason I believe that didn't work was because the basis of the procurement of the visa itself, the U.S. courts found that was fraudulent, because if you say somebody's coming on an A3 visa to help you with, your duties as a government official, it's very, very far removed from cleaning a home and nannying. It's a very distinct. So for them, that would be misrepresentation or fraud. Okay, so that's why I believe that the case didn't favor her. Okay, so when you're traveling, these types of things, please make sure you consult with your immigration attorney, because we will be able to let you know the type of visa, because all this is to protect you as workers. Like, otherwise, everybody will be going back home to go and bring cheap labor to come and work, and the U.S. workers here, they will be out of jobs. Okay, so they want to make sure that you can only work here when you have the proper authorization to work, an employment authorization to be able to work. Okay, so that's that. Let's see. Very unfortunate that Barbara, she was arrested she was in prison for 5 years, and from the story, apparently, when she was arrested in her home, she never set foot in her home. So she was arrested, handcuffed, taken to detention, and then she was moved straight to court and then taken to jail. She was jailed for 5 years. Goodness, 5 years, 3 months. This story is really, really, really heartbreaking. Jailed for 5 years, 3 months. And then after that, she was deported straight to Ghana. And, being deported to Ghana, she developed a lot of complications, like health complications. I understand that she had, diabetes, high blood pressure, a recurrent brain tumor. She had to undergo, surgery, undergo 2 craniotomies, form of open head surgery. This is really a lot to bear. She served 63 months in prison, and then she was deported to Ghana. Very unfortunate. She was deported to Ghana in 2008, and her mom died in 2009. Grace Coleman, her mom died. They said these events are what caused her mom's death. This is enough to kill any mother. This is the biggest tragedy. Biggest tragedy. Just imagine a 33-year-old girl living her American dream, arrested. She has 2 little kids, and she never saw her home. When she was arrested and taken, that was a 5 years, 3 months. She was deported straight to Ghana with, of course, just a clothes on her back. When you are deported, it's just an unfortunate thing. You are just allowed to wear, what you have on. You don't take a pin from the US. It's a heartbreaking tragedy that She was just put in the plane, and normally you'll have policemen that will be with you. They will escort you and make sure they push you right back to your home in Ghana and hand you over and then leave. You know, it's a big tragedy. I mean, I really, it's just really an unfortunate situation, and a lot of these American nightmares could be prevented when you just speak with an American immigration attorney. Like, it's so important. I can't emphasize it enough. It's crucial, very, very crucial. Sometimes I have fellow attorneys that, you know, they do some sort of immigration process for themselves and they mess up so badly and get into trouble. So sometimes I have other U.S. attorneys that will call me and then ask for my advice, you know, on immigration, because that's not something they handle. They don't have time to research it and all of that. So if you're not, even attorneys, as I always say, hire other attorneys, like, who are not in their field. So don't think you can do it. You see, every time I tell you guys, at the time when you are filing these applications and doing all these things, let me tell you, there's no bell that will ring and say, ding dong, be careful, that's going to put you in trouble. It's free. Filing all these things and putting all this information and submitting all your documents, it's free, and nobody's going to warn you. Your attorney is going to be that ding dong when you're, you know, providing or trying to file a certain immigration step to tell you this is going to be problematic, and then you stop. So it's very important, because this could have been probably avoided had they, you know, consulted with an attorney, like a U.S. immigration attorney, who would have told them what the implications are of some of these things. Very, very huge tragedy, guys. The more I talk about it, the more my heart bleeds. I just can't get over it. And it brings me to this other comment that if you qualify for citizenship, guys, just file it. Don't wait. Don't think of political ambitions in Ghana. Well, you could. I mean, I guess it's your choice. But if you're a U.S. citizen, when things like this happen, you will not be denaturalized. Denaturalization is a very serious thing, and the reasons for which somebody will be denaturalized are very specific. So, for example, if you procured your U.S. citizenship fraudulently, then you'll be denaturalized. You know, things like that. Or if you're a security threat to the U.S., or, you know, extreme things like that. But if you've just committed a federal felony, like a federal felony or crime, you will not be deported, because, I mean, you cannot be denaturalized. Denaturalized means the process of taking away your U.S. citizenship. Okay, that's denaturalization. So had she been a U.S. citizen, that wouldn't have happened. Yeah, a green card, you can be deported at any time, because look, green card is just permission for you as an alien. That's why a green card has an A number. You're still an alien or a foreigner. It's just permission for you to live on somebody's land and work, you know, and, you know, but it doesn't give you full rights of an American. So it's always better, of course, if you are interested in citizenship, to try to file and then get the full protection of the law in some situations. Okay. Guys, this is the biggest tragedy, and I just can't get over it. I'm sorry. I mean, it hits home so much, because I work with immigrants, and oh my gosh, sometimes this week I've consulted with a number of people, and some of them have messed up their cases so much even before they come and, you know, see you, and then they now tell me, they're like, oh my God, Akua, I wish that I had used a lawyer. This has been my biggest mistake ever, you know. And I know how real it is, because it's like having insurance. Okay, like sometimes, well, some people will not have insurance, they'll drive and they'll not get any accident, they get away with it. But some people will not have insurance, they'll drive and they'll have the biggest accident, you know, and it's like your car is totaled and you didn't have insurance, and you've spoiled somebody's car. At the end, you have a cost of, let's say, maybe $80,000 to pay. I mean, and then you are kind of screwed, okay? Or maybe your house, you didn't have house insurance, your house got burnt down. Big loss. You might not have insurance, your house will never get burnt down. So you think that, oh, well, I've saved money. But you don't know how lucky you could be or how unlucky. So it's always good to use an attorney. Always, always advantageous. Always. There are literally no cons, no disadvantages to having an attorney. Well, the only disadvantage is that you're going to be paying the attorney, and so your money goes to the attorney. But what I always tell my clients is that, look, attorney fees that you are paying, you're not doing me a favor, you're doing yourself a favor, because what we're filing, the benefit comes to you. It doesn't come to me. See, that's what people think. The benefit does not come to me. It comes to you. So at the end of the day, you are doing yourself an even bigger favor. Okay. So yes, you're patronizing the services of the lawyer, but what, $1,000, $2,000 will not change the fortunes of the lawyer. But that $2,000 for you to get the most important document you need here in the US to be able to live and freely work, I mean, it's invaluable. You cannot put a dollar cost to it, and it's important because sometimes the repercussions are just really, 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 really crazy. Oh my gosh. Nana Yao AJ Chamatin, I'm sorry. Nana Yao Che Ajiman. I don't know where I saw Chamatin from. I'm sorry. I called and left a voicemail, but got no call back. I'm sorry. People are just complaining. We get a number of calls all the time, and my assistant is just so busy. Please forgive. We'll try to get back to you. You can alternatively just book a consult through the website. That would be good, because I'm trying to get somebody else to assist us with our calls so that we can respond to all clients, because you guys are very important. You are the fulcrum of this law firm. You make it go around. We enjoy working with you immigrants and serving you and making sure that we are advocating for you even when no one else is advocating for you. Okay, so I'm here. If you need my help, just call me on 802-7800-564. Or simply go to my website and then try to book a consult, and then you come straight through on my calendar, and then I'll give you a call when it's time to speak with you. Okay, guys, so that's the very unfortunate story of Barbara Coleman Blackwell. Just the biggest tragedy, biggest tragedy ever. I really hope that her family finds solace and some peace in life. Okay, guys, so have a wonderful rest of the day and evening, and I will see you guys soon. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.